The rain had stopped, but the air in Portland still carried that damp, electric chill, like the city was holding its breath. I stood under the flickering neon sign of the Rusty Anchor, heart pounding, watching him. Elliot stride through the crowd like he owned the night. His smile, that damn smile, cut through the chaos like a beacon, and I was already drowning in it before I knew his name. I'm Lucas, 24, a graphic designer with a knack for blending into the background. Portland's art scene was my escape, a place where my sketches could scream louder than I ever dared. That night, I was just another face in the bar, nursing a cheap beer, sketching strangers on a napkin. Then Elliot walked in tall, broad-shouldered, with hazel eyes that seemed to see right through me. He was the kind of guy who could make a room feel smaller. His laugh a low rumble that pulled you in. When he slid into the booth across from me, I froze, my pencil hovering over a half-drawn face. You're not just doodling, are you? He said, voice smooth as whiskey, leaning forward to peek at my napkin. That's me, right? Caught me mid-laugh. His grin was playful, but his eyes held something heavier, like he was testing me. I stammered, cheeks burning, and shoved the napkin toward him. It's nothing, I muttered, but he didn't buy it. He ordered us another round, and before I knew it, we were really talking about art, music, the way Portland's fog felt like a secret you could keep. Elliot was 26, a carpenter who built furniture that looked like poetry. He talked about wood grains like they were stories, his hands moving like he was carving the air. I couldn't stop watching those hands, calloused and sure, imagining them tracing lines on more than just oak. He caught me staring and didn't look away. Instead, he leaned closer, his knee brushing mine under the table, and said, "You're not what I expected to find tonight, Lucas." The bar faded. The world was just us, his words hanging like a dare. I wasn't out, not really. Growing up in a small Oregon town, I'd learned to keep my feelings locked tight, a secret even from myself. But Elliot's gaze was a key, turning something loose inside me. When he suggested we ditch the bar for the rooftop of his apartment building, I didn't hesitate. I should have. I didn't know then that rooftops and promises could break you. His building was a crumbling brick relic in southeast Portland, the kind of place artists and dreamers flocked to before gentrification swept them out. The rooftop was a mess of fairy lights and mismatched chairs, with a view of the city that made my chest ache. Elliot handed me a blanket, his fingers lingering on mine, and we sat, the city sprawling below us like a canvas. "This is where I come to think," he said, his voice softer now, almost fragile. "When the world gets too loud." We talked until the stars blurred, about dreams we'd buried, fears we didn't name. He told me about his dad, a pastor who'd called him a sinner when he came out at 17, kicking him out with nothing but a duffel bag. I told him about my mom, who loved me but prayed I'd find the right girl someday. We laughed, but it was the kind of laughter that hurts, sharp with truth. Then he turned to me, his face half lit by moonlight, and said, "Lucas, what are you so afraid of?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was a fist, clenched around years of silence. But when he reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. His touch was warm, grounding, and for the first time, I felt seen, not the artist, not the quiet kid, just me. He leaned in, his breath brushing my cheek, and I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he whispered, You don't have to hide. Not with me. The moment hung there, fragile as glass. Then his phone buzzed, shattering it. He glanced at the screen, and his smile vanished, replaced by something cold, guarded. I gotta take this, he said, stepping away. His voice was low, clipped, as he spoke into the phone. Words I couldn't catch, but felt like knives. When he came back, he was different, distant, his eyes avoiding mine. It's late, he said, shoving his hands in his pockets. We should head down. I didn't push. I couldn't. But as we rode the creaky elevator down, I saw Ida flicker of fear behind his smile, like a crack in a mirror. Something was wrong, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know what. Not yet. The next week, I couldn't shake him. Elliot was everywhere in the lines of my sketches, the songs on my playlist, the way my coffee tasted bitter without his laugh to sweeten it. We texted, met for coffee, stole moments in crowded galleries where our shoulders brushed. Each time, I fell harder, drawn to his warmth, his easy charm. But that shadow lingered, the one I'd seen on the rooftop. He'd dodge questions about his past, change the subject when I asked about his family, his life before Portland. I told myself it didn't matter. I was wrong. One night, he invited me to his workshop, a cluttered space filled with sawdust and half-finished tables. He was different there, focused, his hands moving with a grace that made my chest tight. Made this for you, he said, sliding a small wooden box across the workbench. It was simple, carved with delicate vines, my initials etched on the lid. I opened it, expecting nothing. But inside was a note, for the guy who sees more than he says. My throat closed up. I looked at him, and he was watching me, eyes soft but heavy with something unspoken. Elliot, what's going on? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You're hiding something. He froze, his hands gripping the edge of the workbench. For a moment, I thought he'd brush it off, flash that smile, and make me forget. But then he sighed, a sound like surrender, and said, Lucas, there's stuff I haven't told you. Stuff I'm not proud of. My stomach dropped. I wanted to run, to keep the version of him I'd built in my head perfect, safe. But I stayed, because his eyes were begging me to. Tell me, I said. He didn't. Not that night. Instead, he kissed me, sudden and desperate, like he was trying to outrun whatever was chasing him. His lips were warm, tasting of sawdust and regret, and I kissed him back, pouring everything I'd never said into it. When we pulled apart, his forehead pressed against mine. He whispered, I don't deserve you, Lucas, but I want to. That was the moment I knew I was in too deep. And I knew, whatever he was hiding, it was going to break us. The days after that kiss were a blur of stolen glances and late-night talks, each one pulling me closer to Elliot, even as the weight of his secrets grew heavier. Portland's autumn was settling in, the air sharp with falling leaves and the promise of something ending. I tried to ignore the unease gnawing at me, focusing instead on the way his laugh felt like sunlight, the way his hand fit perfectly in mine. But the cracks were showing. He'd vanish for hours, claiming work, but his phone was always buzzing, his eyes darting to it like it was a bomb about to go off. I'd catch him staring out windows, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. Once, at a diner, A guy in a leather jacket approached our table, his face hard, and muttered something to Elliot I couldn't hear. Elliot's jaw tightened, and he waved the guy off, but his hand shook as he sipped his coffee. "Old friend," he said when I asked, but his smile was a lie. I wasn't stupid. I knew he was running from someone. But love makes you reckless, and I was drowning in it. I told myself I could fix him, that my love could be enough to bridge whatever gap lay between us. So I pushed, gently at first, asking about his past, his family, the life he'd left behind. Each time, he'd deflect with a kiss or a joke. But the more I pushed, the more I saw the fear in his eyes, the kind that comes from knowing you can't outrun the truth forever. One evening, we were at my place, a tiny studio cluttered with sketchbooks and half-finished canvases. Elliot was sprawled on my couch, flipping through one of my portfolios, his fingers tracing my drawings like they were treasures. "You're incredible, Lucas," he said, his voice soft but heavy. "You see the world in a way I never could." I sat beside him, my knee brushing his. "Then let me see you," I said, my heart pounding. "All of you. The good, the bad. I can handle it." He looked at me, and for a moment, I thought he'd finally open up. But then his phone rang, and the moment shattered. He answered it, his voice low and tense. And when he hung up, he was pale, his hands clenched into fists. "I have to go," he said, standing abruptly. "Elliot, stop," I said, grabbing his arm. "What's going on? You're scaring me." He pulled away, his eyes wild. "You don't get it, Lucas. You don't know what I've done." "Then tell me," I shouted, my voice breaking. "I'm not some fragile thing you have to protect. I love you. Damn it. Whatever it is, we can face it together." He froze, the word love hanging between us like a spark in a storm. For a second, I thought he'd say it back, but instead, he shook his head, his voice barely a whisper. "You don't know what you're asking for." He left, the door slamming behind him, and I stood there, my chest hollow, wondering if I'd just lost him for good. The next day, I couldn't focus. My sketches were jagged, angry lines, my thoughts a mess of worry and want. I texted him, called him, but he didn't answer. By nightfall, I was pacing, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. Had he run? Was he hurt? Or worse, had he decided I wasn't worth the trouble? Desperate, I went to his workshop, the one place I knew he'd always return to. The door was unlocked, the space dark except for a single lamp casting shadows on the walls. Elliot was there, hunched over a workbench, his back to me. Tools were scattered, a chair half finished, but he wasn't working. He was just sitting, his shoulders shaking. "Elliot," I said, my voice soft. He turned, and I saw tears streaking his face, the raw, unguarded pain in his eyes. "Lucas," he choked out, "you shouldn't be here." I crossed the room, my heart breaking at the sight of him. "I'm not leaving," I said, kneeling beside him. "Not until you tell me what's going on." He looked at me, his defenses crumbling. And finally, he spoke. "I was in trouble before I came to Portland," he said, his voice raw. "Big trouble. I got mixed up with some bad people, drug runners. Lowlifes. I was young. Stupid. Thought I could handle it. I owed them money. A lot of it. When I couldn't pay, they came after me. My stomach twisted, but I stayed silent, letting him continue. I ran. He said. Change my name. Started over here. Thought I could leave it behind. But they found me. Lucas. They've been calling. Threatening. They know where I live. Where I work. And now, they know about you. The words hit like a punch. I'd known he was hiding something. But this was a world I didn't understand. A danger I couldn't grasp. But looking at him, broken and scared, I didn't care. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice shaking. Because I'm ashamed, he said, his voice breaking. Because I didn't want you to see this part of me. The part that's weak. That's scared. I wanted to be someone you could love. I do love you, I said, grabbing his hands. All of you. The mess. The mistakes. All of it. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. And then he kissed me, slow and deep, like he was trying to memorize me. When he pulled back, he whispered, I don't know how to fix this, Lucas, but I can't lose you. We sat there, holding each other, the weight of his confession settling around us. I didn't have answers, but I had him. And for now, that was enough. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. The past was coming for him, and I'd have to decide how far I was willing to go to keep him safe. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Elliot and I were closer than ever. Our love a fragile, fierce thing that burned brighter against the shadow of his past. But the calls didn't stop. Every buzz of his phone was a reminder that we were living on borrowed time. I saw the toll it took on him, the sleepless nights, the way his smile faltered when he thought I wasn't looking. I wanted to fix it, to save him, but I didn't know how. One night, he showed up at my apartment, his face bruised, a cut above his eyebrow. They found me, he said, his voice hollow. They want their money, or they'll hurt everyone I care about. That means you, Lucas. Fear clawed at me, but I pushed it down. We'll figure this out, I said, cleaning his wound with shaking hands. We'll go to the police. Get help. He shook his head. You don't get it. These people don't play by rules. If I go to the cops, they'll come for us harder. Then we run, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Together. Start over somewhere new. He looked at me, his eyes soft and sad. You do that. Give up your life. Your art. For me. Yes, I said, and I meant it. I'd spent my whole life hiding, playing it safe. But with Elliot, I'd found something worth risking everything for. He kissed me, his hands cupping my face. And for a moment, we were untouchable. But reality crashed in when his phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't answer. Instead, he turned it off, took my hand, and said, let's go. One last night. Just us. We ended up back on his rooftop, the place where it all began. The city was alive below us, a mosaic of lights and dreams. We lay on a blanket, staring at the stars, our fingers intertwined. If I could go back, he said, his voice barely audible, I'd do it all differently. For you. You don't have to. I said. I'd choose you. Mistakes and all. Every time. He turned to me, his eyes shining with tears. I don't deserve you, Lucas. But I'm going to try to. The next morning, he was gone. A note on my kitchen counter read, I can't let them hurt you. I'm fixing this. Wait for me. Panic gripped me. I called, texted, searched his workshop, his apartment. Nothing. He'd vanished, leaving me with a hole where my heart used to be. Days turned into weeks. I threw myself into my art, painting him in every stroke, trying to keep him alive in my mind. I checked my phone obsessively, hoping for a sign. Nothing came. Portland felt emptier without him. The city's colors muted, its pulse slower. Then, one rainy evening, a knock at my door. I opened it, and there he was, Elliot. Thinner, tired, but alive. His smile was tentative, but it was his. It's over, he said, stepping inside. I paid them off. Sold everything I had. Called in every favor. They're gone. I didn't care about the details. I threw my arms around him, tears streaming down my face. Don't ever do that again. I choked out. Don't leave me. He held me tight, his breath warm against my neck. I won't, he whispered. I'm done running. We rebuilt from there, piece by piece. It wasn't easy. Trust had to be earned again. Wounds had to heal. But we did it. Together. I came out to my mom. And though it was messy, she hugged me and said she'd try to understand. Elliot started over, building furniture, his hands finding their rhythm again. We moved into a tiny apartment, our lives tangled in the best way, messy. Real. Ours. That night on the rooftop, he showed me a side I never expected, not just his secrets, but his strength, his heart. And now, every time I see his smile, I see the man who fought for us, who chose love over fear. We're not perfect, but we're here, and that's enough.